And we're back. Welcome to the Northern Lights podcast. We're here for a special interview episode with Jacob Schlichter and Marcus Harkis. My name is Steven Eigenman. It's great to see you guys.
Good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. You made a 2-hour drive to come visit us, so thank you. We appreciate your time and your efforts.
Of course. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Jacob, we talked about getting you on as soon as we could, and we're here. We're interested in hearing your story. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? I do a lot of fashion design, graphic design, activist work. I'm a professional photographer. I've been in galleries throughout the nation. That's just a little bit, I suppose. All around, I just say I'm a professional creative, but slowly but surely I'm kind of getting into more of the lobbyist work for cannabis here and just the educational background that I've had with substance abuse disorder and trying to bring that background to the forefront of everyone's mind in this industry.
Well, what's your relationship with cannabis? Tell us about that.
With cannabis?
Yeah.
It started later than most people. I didn't try weed until I was 19, mainly because I grew up with one of my best friends, R.A.P. Jordan. He used to smoke a lot in high school. Unfortunately, that transferred into heroin usage and then meth usage, and it turned me off of cannabis when I was younger. Once I graduated high school, I saw those friends of mine suffering still, but I realized I made a grave mistake, and I thought cannabis was a lot worse than it was. I truly thought it was the devil's lettuce. But then after trying it for the first time, I realized, actually, let me just take you back. I was in my home on this black leather couch with my friend Chance. I'm just giggling my ass off, and I'm like, why is this illegal? What about this should turn everyone into a criminal that uses it? And from that point on, I'm just like, I need to fix this. And it unfortunately culminated in one of the darkest moments of my life. My best friend overdosed Easter morning. I literally buried him on my birthday of my 20th birthday. The universe wanted to tie us together in that way, I suppose. I don't know. But I dropped out of college immediately and focused on gaining knowledge about substance abuse disorder and then being able to speak to my community at various events publicly about that and trying to educate people that, hey, if your loved one is an addict, look at it chemically speaking, because chemical and physical addiction, two different things. But chemically speaking, the stuff being released in your brain that you get when you use hard drugs or any substance, or even sugar, coffee, stuff like that. The same stuff, the dopamine, the serotonin will release if you work out, do your chores, go eat a meal, go hug someone, go tell someone you love them.
Go masturbate.
I used to work with the Hub too, not going to lie, but...
You're an apparel producer.
Yep.
You're repping your own gear today, right? Show us what you got.
This is the potted plant beanie I did in line with the Tommy Chong brand and my own brand, Slicks. This satin jacket is a collaboration between myself, Slicks, and my artist friend, Yancy. It's a full embroidered back. It says, "Keep no friends," I think, in Vietnamese.
I thought
That's ill.
Vietnamese and English letters, nice.
And then you got a T-shirt on. What does that say?
And this is the message as a whole. It says, "Education is harm reduction." This is with Cannabis, Dr. Riley Kirk.
Shout out to her.
She's a great person and a great resource too if you just want to learn more about the chemical background of cannabis use. She's got a doctorate in pharmacognosy for medical science in studying natural plant medicine. And yeah, her and I and you guys and everyone else, it seems like we're all just trying to raise the cultural awareness and knowledge about, cannabis, not just as the industry, but as it pertains to your actual body. Obviously the main conversations are around terpenes and cannabinoids, but I think a lot of people get a little segued off of the actual problem that is recognizing bad usage. I'm not going to name names, but I know someone, for instance, that literally had to go to rehab for cannabis. And I know a lot of people have really varying opinions on that, and they don't want to hear that. And I think this is a very disingenuous conversation, because cannabis is addictive. Anything can be addictive to the wrong person. So we just got to talk about it openly and honestly so people can get a grasp and get a control of that.
Can we talk a little bit about it?
Yeah.
There's this guy named Dr. Carl Hart. He's like one of the preeminent drug addiction researchers in the world, and I'm fortunate to know him and brought him to Minnesota a couple of times. But what I've learned from him is that typically when people are suffering addiction, it's easy to scapegoat the drug. Yeah, consuming a drug abusively is hazardous to your health, but typically there are some other reasons that make them susceptible to being addicted, you know, and a lot of times for people it's a lack of hope, or it's like serious depression or anxiety or whatever,
right.
Mental health issues, you know, poverty. But I'm not trying to excuse abusive drug use at all, but I think it's more complicated than they like this drug too much and it's fucking them up.
They're lacking in other areas and compensating with a substance.
Yeah.
I've done it myself where I've like used in excess because I'm feeling fucked up about my life.
Yeah. To one of the most common diagnoses in modern day, like ADHD, is basically a imbalance of dopamine in your body that can come from the transport proteins, for lack of better words, that actually either transport it, so it's not transporting enough, or just your brain isn't producing enough in general. Well, the most common remedy for that, and it's not an actual solution, you're just kind of curing the symptoms, is stimulants, like Adderall, Ritalin, etc. Well, weed can be a stimulant too. So
Right.
A lot of people have found cannabis helps with ADHD. And to tie into what you just said, Marcus, is a lot of addiction is really just undiagnosed mental issues.
Yeah.
And people don't have
Untreated mental illness.
You know, and people don't have the ability or know-how to even go get help or to afford help. And there's nothing wrong
medical
with that,
cannabis in Minnesota doesn't allow for ADHD to be a symptom or a reason to be able to have the card.
Qualifying.
Yes, a condition, not a symptom, but yeah. Because otherwise I would have it, you know, and I would at least be able to experiment with the medical program. But I definitely have come from that background of 1999, 2000 being on Ritalin, and then finding Adderall, not inherently just for studying reasons, but because it was a college drug of, you know, it was a currency in college at some points, and that's dealing controlled substances. Like there's a whole culture there of dealing the drugs that they prescribe you, ADHD type people like myself, and that cannabis is not an option, or it's an underground option. And that's another reason why it should be recreationally legal, because ADHD is so rampant.
Yeah. Seems like it's increasingly prevalent.
Right. And that's been the case probably 20 years. And so, you know, where has cannabis legalization been? It's not been readily available for most people.
And that just kind of, you know, right now they're talking about legalizing psychedelics to give people another option for mental health. And I've talked to people who are like psychotherapists, and like they know that a lot of the tools they have in terms of pharmaceuticals or talk therapy has extreme limits, and it's not going to be effective in helping a lot of people to overcome trauma or like as a treatment for mental illness. And cannabis is a safer, healthier alternative for a lot of people. So it's been a real tragedy that's been prohibited for so long. And there's a lot of people who could have benefited from it, but they were too afraid to like skirt the law to access a safer choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know this conversation was going here, but I like it. It's important.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well say I was like suicidally depressed a few weeks ago because my grandpa was passing, and I just ate a few mushrooms, meditated by myself, and was able to pull myself out of a really dark place. And I feel completely better now. And I've been trying to raise people's awareness about that. And it's not just like mushrooms, like ketamine and a bunch of other psychedelics can also help with stuff like that. And it's been shown to, like, quantifiably, empirically. Yeah. So hopefully we can get on board with that next and try to be exemplary and show other states that, this is a medicine when used responsibly. And there is quite literally a usage for all of this, medically speaking, that every human, I think, could actually benefit from, truthfully. But that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. Marcus, do you have any thoughts or updates for the community around mushroom and the mushroom or psychedelic task force? And what's any progress that you've heard in Minnesota right now?
Well, right now, Minnesota has a psychedelic medicine task force. Representative Andy Smith out of Rochester passed a bill during the previous session that established this task force. So it's comprised of a variety of people from various fields, academia, law enforcement, mental health, et cetera, and they're tasked with doing research and to bring forth a proposal next year before the 2025 session. We're still in the middle of the 2024 legislative session, but they're going to come forward with a proposal for legalizing psilocybin-containing mushrooms, MDMA, and I think LSD. And it's going to be a medical model. That bill is going to be a medical model. But just a couple of days ago, me and some people that I work with to advocate for decriminalizing entheogens, we met with Representative Smith, and we're talking about real decriminalization or legalizing for the grassroots. Because as we saw with medical cannabis, it excluded the vast majority of people who should and could have benefited from it.
Oh, that's
so
a great.
It's kind
that's
of
a great.
predictable that's what would come with the medical model. People are already doing mushrooms. I mean, I had some mushrooms probably within this past week, and it was wonderful.
I think you had some mushrooms on this last episode,
Yeah, I was on the tail end of a trip. It was so loud in here when I came in here. I was like, God damn, I feel like there's microphones in my ears. But we want to legalize what people are already doing that, is not necessarily bad for them unless they do it unsafely. We just want to make people safe, and prohibition and criminalizing people for substance use is unsafe. It destroys lives.
That's right.
So, we want to legalize freedom and make everyone safer.
Jacob, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you see the cannabis industry from your vantage point.
Well, born in India, adopted to Austin, Minnesota, raised most of my life in southern Minnesota. The cannabis industry in the South, a little different. The whole culture around it, a little different. A lot of closet usage. I've in my lobbying efforts to talk to all the representatives down there. They're like everyone else. In private, they'll tell you they're all for it. They use it. They'll tell you their wives use it, whatever. But then when it comes to actually voting, nah, they'll lie to your face. And I just think it's just really not a great way to go about business. I mean, to put it in short, I don't mind if people are against it. I really don't. I used to be against it myself. But I think it's more respectable to just say, hey, I'm not against it. I just don't know enough about it. And I think that's a lot of the culture that I've come from, is a lot of just people are proud of their ignorance.
That's a strange thing to be proud of. I'm ignorant about not knowing and being willfully ignorant. I don't want to know, and I'm proud of that.
No, for real. I mean, seriously though, we laugh about it, but that ignorance has ruined so many lives.
Yeah, it's not really
so
funny.
many lives. And it still is to this day, I've had so many friends that have records due to different substances that, as we just said with mushrooms, people are already using it. Why turn this person into a felon? Because they want to go use something in the privacy of their own home.
Right.
They're not violent.
Or by a fire pit.
Or in their sauna. But, yeah. So I guess, to sum it up, that's kind of what I've been dealing with down there, just kind of raising the awareness, educating people. And I've been making progress. I've talked to a lot of police chiefs, different departments, government organizations, and now they're getting comfortable enough to actually say, hey, you know what, Jacob? I'm not actually anti-weed, but in my business as a police officer, the guy who's selling you weed might start trying to push you heroin when he's out of weed. And you know what? I've lived through that. That's what happened to a lot of my friends. So I get where he's coming from because that's what he deals with every day. So he is a little jaded. He is a little cynical. And you got to respect that. But at the same time, that's where we got to change the laws to make his job easier and to make it safer for all the citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to say that the onus was on the lawmakers, because even though the police shouldn't be criminalizing people for this, like, they make that their job. I mean, it's a drug war. The whole law enforcement culture in this country has been conditioned to, like, persecute people over drugs. I mean, the main three things that they criminalize are poverty, mental illness, and drugs. I mean, there's other things, but that's the shit they love. Those are the low.
Those are like the foundation of what leads to the other issues.
Right. Yeah.
It's
So
important for you to be doing the work and reaching out to these people. And you know a lot of people in southern Minnesota. That's one of the reasons why you're here today, is you have ideas and you have progress to share. You know, you're working on your own cannabis industry career. But right now you do a lot of apparel.
Yeah.
So share with us some of the not necessarily cool projects you're working on right now, but tell us a little bit about your history and what really brings you joy in this industry.
The history is a wild roller coaster of a ride. I've been doing this since like 2016. Kind of just started as a really weird opportunity that started with me doing sales for another brand down in southern Minnesota. But then the owner said, "Hey, I want you to also like partner with me on another fashion brand." And we actually made that brand completely dedicated to the cannabis industry. Now, I'm not going to say the name for obvious reasons, but that is a brand that I pretty much helmed, did all the work of, and was able to secure clients, several multi-billion-dollar clients that are household names that you'd all know. They are in the adult entertainment industry, so I'm not going to name any names, but you could probably guess. But in that,
I have a GoFundMe. I mean,
an
OnlyFans. Yeah.
Shoot me the link. Plug it right now. I'm just kidding. But
Marcus is a sexy motherfucker.
Oh, don't have to tell me.
No. So like, take us
Okay,
through,
I'm
like,
uncomfortable.
you know, we'll run that back. But you know, the idea here is like, so Jacob, you're an apparel producer. How can brands work with you?
How can brands work with me? It's as easy as just DMing me. I do the full 9 yards cut and sew. I'm choosing the stitch, choosing the fabric, choosing the weight of the fabric. I'm making the dye lines, the measurements of everything, you know. In the industry, I was trained in by a family that's been doing it for 50 years. So the producing and supplying, that's what I'm really familiar with. But the artistic aspect of actually designing something that people are going to wear, designing you an item that's going to sell out instantly. You know, my clients are coming to me, and I'll sell them a bunch of hats for like $13 a hat, right? Might seem pricey. They're turning around and selling 100, 200, even 1,000 of these hats for $40 a hat before shipping, selling out in 1 or 2 days.
Wow.
That's ill.
Yeah. So you want to work with me? Yeah. The brand name is Slicks.
Get Slicks.
At Get Slicks for all the socials, getslicks.com. I'm always looking to work with more people. I'm always happy to teach people what I know too. You know, I'm not one of those people that's going to try to gatekeep knowledge. You know, if you're good at what you do, you should be spreading that knowledge to everyone else, to help anyone else that came and is following in your footsteps. You know,
Facts.
You shouldn't have to worry about any competition if you're actually good at what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate your work, you know, in terms of like the clothing, because it's a big part of the cannabis culture. It's not just the cannabis products, but it's the apparel, it's the artwork, you know, it's the events.
It's a whole counterculture movement.
Yeah. Are there any other like brands within Minnesota of like cannabis culture brands that you admire or support?
There's too many to name, and I'm afraid to name any because I don't want anyone I forget to get after me. But I would say like the majority of brands that you or I know, you know, from Legacy with Josh to Cultivated with Anthony, Minnesota Marijuana, you know, with Mike. I think a lot of people, and there's so many more people to name. I am so sorry if I've forgotten you. I haven't. It's just I'd be here all day. But everyone seems to be working towards promoting a positive culture in their own way, and that's what I really love about it. You know, the legalization bill, I truly thought would bring unity, but I consider it the most divisive thing to ever happen in the culture.
Really?
Yeah, just because once money's involved, people got to side with what's best for them and their family. But I think with that in mind is what I'm trying to say, is that everyone is still trying to keep in mind the culture that came before and the counterculture that came with it. You know, for the longest time before legalization, I always told people, every time you smoke a joint, you got to realize you're participating in an act of counterculture, in an act of rebellion, in an act of defiance that so many people before you are in jail because of, or in prison, or had their lives ruined. And it's just like, if you don't have that cognizant awareness of all the lives that have been messed up before you, to just sit there and enjoy your joint by your fireplace, it's like, what are you actually doing? You're just a consumer, a mindless consumer. I don't want anyone to be a mindless consumer. I want everyone to be very aware of everything that happened to lead to this point.
That's so good. You know, I think people are easily going to forget that like 230,000 Minnesotans have felonies. I was lobbying for this for years. I didn't know it was that bad. Like I knew I thought there were tens of thousands of felonies, but to hear 230,000 just in Minnesota, not in this, like 65, 70,000 misdemeanors.
Wow.
Like that's crazy.
So many lives, so many families torn apart.
Yeah.
For a plant.
And those are just the people that got like convicted. There's probably a lot more who got arrested, and those arrest records alone can cost people job opportunities, housing, etc. So yeah, we should never forget that, you know. So thanks for encouraging us to remain and increasingly become conscious.
Yeah, every dollar we make off this legal industry, we owe it to everyone that came before us that couldn't do that. Yeah. And at least in my opinion.
Well, you said this has become it was divisive because of money, and to some extent I think so. But, I mean, you could apply that to anything. Mm-hmm. But what was it like being in the bill signing room? Because I saw you in there. How did it feel?
It was an honor to be invited. I don't think I deserved to be there, and I definitely stood in the wrong spot. But
I stayed out of the picture.
Yeah, it was honestly really just monumentous. I don't know, words don't describe it. It felt, I've been describing it as like the cannabis family reunion. You know, like all of us that have been fighting for this for longer than I've been alive, for a lot of these people.
Right.
We all knew each other. We've all been working towards this. We've all seen each other at events. We've all, you know, either worked together to like lobby certain politicians or something. You know, it's like we've all had a hand in this. We all really, truly, it felt like a family gathering at some point. And then good. Just the other funny part, the less serious part about it is outside the Capitol, reeked of weed. Inside, reeked of weed. In the actual office, reeked of weed. Everyone was joking. His Walls back there with Ventura token up. Like, it was like the vibe. I don't think
Walls is cool enough. If he smoked, I think he'd be cooler. But
Walls, if you see this, I'll give you some White Widow. I'll call it White Walls or something. Like we'll name it after you. I'll make you a strain. Let's
There will
move.
be a Walls strain at some point, I would imagine, since he was on the bill.
Oh yeah,
garlic Walsberry from Doug's Nugs is
that's a real thing.
Yeah, that was.
Garlic Walsberry?
Shout out Doug's Nugs for
Okay,
garlic
now
Walsberry.
he's got to smoke that one.
Yeah, hook
Even
us
if
up,
it's just
please.
one hit.
You might be able to find it growing at my apartment.
There's a strong suspicion it might be there, but we can't confirm.
Right.
Wrapping up here, before we go, tell us a little bit about what you have going on professionally as a photographer.
As a photographer, I mean, I just wrapped up an interview on NPR, which is really crazy to make it that far in my career. I'm in the historic Chateau Art of Our City exhibit in Rochester. I'm in the Rochester Airport's second annual art gallery at the airport, RSTE. Just got into a gallery down in Iowa at the McNider Museum. And then I'm in the Austin and Albert Lee galleries. And yeah, I got a lot of photography work going on. I'm mainly an astro and wildlife photographer. I'm always happy to shoot with other people and teach everyone what I know. But what I do is very complex. It's really not for beginner photographers. So if you do want me to help you, just understand that and don't be upset when you're not getting crispy as bacon sharp shots of the Milky Way from your point and shoot camera, you know? But yeah.
You're a cool dude, Jacob. We appreciate you coming on the Northern Lights podcast.
And
Thank
you
you so
did
much
deserve to be in that room. I mean, everybody who advocated locally throughout Minnesota, you know, belonged in that room. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Doing it for the culture.
No, exactly.
Peace, Jacob.
Peace.
Peace.